Hello, my name is Chris Keyack with Keyack Technology Solutions. I am a steel construction technology consultant, and in this video today I am going to demonstrate IrisVR's Prospect virtual reality collaboration software. I am on a Oculus Quest 2 headset or MetaQuest 2 headset, and I am currently in a tethered mode. So IrisVR's Prospect software has a native app that runs on the Oculus Quest headset without being plugged into a computer, or you can be plugged into a computer and you get a little bit more performance and fidelity like shadows and certain things when you're plugged into the computer based on the computer's power. So there is an untethered as well as a tethered option. So tethered means plugged into your computer, untethered means running the native app. Now, basically what I am using here is an IFC file of a structural steel model exported from Tekla Structures. They also support a variety of different formats, including REVIT, NAVISWORKS, SKETCHUP, and a variety of different files, and they have native export plugins for those softwares to basically export to the virtual reality environment. Now, to get started, let's actually go through here. What I love about when you first start out with Prospect is essentially you have what I call like God mode. So if you're an old PC gamer like me from the 90s, basically, you have this mode where you're looking down at a scaled model. And this is actually a great place to start because you can actually get a whole feel for the entire building from a design point of view. If you're a general contractor or an iron worker and you're out in the job site trailer and you're getting a feel for how you're doing, going to be planning logistics around the building, where you'll start having a conversation, pointing to things. It's really easy to start out here in this overall size mode. And you can just easily scale the model. It's super simple. You just take your two controllers and you hold down the triggers and then you scale by moving in and out to resize the model however you want to. And then when you actually want to get in to the model in a full scale mode, then what you do is you just basically will go in, and you'll see by holding forward on the right trigger, I can see that my little avatar icon gets small, and now I'm actually in full size mode here. So I'm now in a one-to-one environment. Very easy to teleport around. You just forward basically on your controller, and then it basically pops you to the location that you're trying to go. Now, one thing I will say with Prospect software is that if you have a steel model like this where there's not a lot of solid surfaces other than like here on this platform or catwalk that I'm walking on, but sometimes steel detailers are not modeling in concrete floors. So why do I bring that up? Well, that gets a little bit tricky when you're trying to use teleport, and teleport is probably the easiest way to kind of move around. There is also like a fly mode where you can kind of move around by just pressing forward, but teleportation really is the easiest way to move around. So if you are working in a steel model with this software, my recommendation is to put in just like some fake concrete slab, especially at the 0, 0 elevation, just so that way it's easier for you to navigate. Now, how can I move up and down and easily go to different locations outside of teleportation? Well, there is basically your A and B buttons on the Oculus 2 headset controllers. And so basically when I come and press A, it's going to bring me down. B will bring me up basically here, so that way I can move around. There's also a rotate feature, although you don't really need it that much because honestly, I don't know why I would rotate that much unless I'm in a fixed seated position. There's not a lot of room to move around. There is the ability to fly forward, and then basically on the left joystick, I'm just holding that down and it kind of shows you in a narrow focus mode. So if you don't like teleport, you can do that. And then basically here, I'm just teleporting to different locations. The fidelity, again, when I'm plugged in is really good. And if you actually bring in SketchUp models that have materials and surfaces on them, it will present that in the software. So it looks pretty good from a visualization point of view. There isn't any materials necessarily in Tekla Structures, and so that's why you don't necessarily see that here. But the presentation of the steel looks good. The shadows give it a good feel. It doesn't necessarily add to the collaboration of like actually constructing or erecting steel and concrete in this case, but it just does give it that final finish and gives you something that you're kind of reviewing that looks a little bit more realistic. If you're an architect and you're doing some interior design or showing the customer that, I could see definitely, even though it's not a super high fidelity kind of shaded model, it still does look a little bit better for architectural rendering than the value here for steel. Now, first of all, this is just great. Like, let me explain the value of virtual reality. First of all, I can come in here and, as a steel detailer, I've been in the business for 20 years. I've been a designer. And every time I go out to a job site, or even if I'm walking around town, going to the movies and I see a steel structure, I'm always doing this. I'm always looking up. And you can always see little things, little details, and certain things when you're in a life-size mode compared to running around or navigating around in a 3D model on your computer screen. There's just something about being, full life size here. And especially when you're collaborating with other people, like if you're walking with a checker or an engineer or a designer or somebody from the field and you're walking together in a life-size model, you can get so much value and find so many things that you can't in just being in a video screen or an online meeting where you're sharing the 3D model and navigating around on the 2D screen alone. So again, we could just kind of come in through here and we can start taking a look at things. Ooh, that looks interesting. We've got a double bolted connection there that's coming up off that steel. Interesting. Okay. See, so I just start looking around. This is nice. There's safety cable holes here, basically probably around this opening for this interior column. Looks like maybe some curtain wall supports and things there attaching to the bottom side of deck. And so let's, just kind of pop up here and take a look at things. Looks like we've got some clips, the extend pass flange, shear tab connections. Everything looks really good. Looks pretty erectable. The beam would be coming in from that side there. So we've got some clips. Oh, something I'd kind of noticed here. So let's actually just go forward a little bit. So one thing I noticed is that these bolts are a little bit tight on the K of that or the radius of that angle. So maybe I'll just create an issue. So what we can do is we can come in here and we can go to issue tracking. Now, what's great is you can come in here and say create issue. And then basically I'm just going to create the issue right here. I really like this. It has a nice, the snap and the image is right here. You see the description, pretty much everything involved is right here. I'm just going to say, let's try the voice to text. Bolts fouling the radius of the angle. Bolts fouling the radius of the angle. Perfect. So the voice to text recognition was pretty good. I can put a description here. Now, I do these issues, they actually synchronize with my desktop, and you can correct any of the, it's not easy to edit right here on the fly, and there's not really a good typewriter in here to do this. So when you're actually doing comments, you'll do the best you can with the voice to text. And then what you'll do is if there's anything that's kind of messed up, I would just go back over to the desktop and fix that up there. When you're here inside of the main interface and you just speak to text, you'll get most of the concept there, and then you can clean it up when you get onto your computer. All right, so we have everything here. I'm just going to go ahead and say save. Now, what's cool about this is that the issue will be here and it'll appear like as well here, but it'll appear in the model and you're kind of in a mode. So if you kind of go somewhere else in the model, so let's just teleport over here. I can actually get back to that issue that's back up there. So here, we'll just go ahead and say open, and it brings me right back to that issue, shows the panel off to the side. Again, I really like this concept of kind of the panel being here. You see that everybody that is collaborating, if we had multiple users in here at the same time, they'd be able to see that issue, everything that's kind of going on related to that, come in here and inspect it together. Now, what we can also do is we can come in and we can do some annotations. Now we can do handheld or projected. So the way projected works is wherever my pointer is touching on some, an object, basically I can draw and annotate on that. So there I can annotate that way, or I can go to handheld, and then that's just going to basically annotate here in space. So if I want to kind of communicate the problem, I could just say, hey, there's the radius, and there's a bolt. You can kind of put whatever you want. Now, the one thing that would be really neat is if we could actually put text notes in different spots and sort of draw pointers. But right now you can do shapes, you can do measurements, and then again, if you need to erase anything, you can just hover over those and get rid of those annotations. Pretty neat basic functionality. You can do photos and snapshots. You can measure things. You can even control the time of day, which I think this is pretty handy for architectural purposes. If you're trying to get a different feel for like nighttime, daytime, especially from an outside or external perspective, you'll see that the shadows and everything change. You can even control like time of year, which again shows the sun's position changing. There's visibility settings. So depending on the source of the model itself, like what file, whether it's from say NAVISWORKS or REVIT, or here I have an IFC file, I can actually come in and I can turn off certain objects. So based on the layer or the name of the properties of those objects coming across, we can turn those easily on or off. Now, one thing I also notice here is that there's some, might be potentially some long slots there in those bolts, so might need some plate washers instead of regular washers. But again, this is neat. You can actually come in and control different visibility settings. You can also come in here to viewpoints and save views. Now, again, I don't really use viewpoints that much anymore because there's issue tracking. And issue tracking is a little bit more robust. You can actually kind of remember certain things. But if you're just doing a very simple tour, then saving viewpoints is pretty handy as well. So again, really neat basic functionality, but I actually like that. When it comes to virtual reality, having very simple, easy to understand functionality is king. You don't want to have too many features to complicate the experience. What I really like about the virtual reality, again, compared to giving BIM viewers to people that aren't used to running CAD applications all day, is in virtual reality, it feels natural. You learn a few different commands here, but you're not really spending a lot of time learning the technical pieces or features of the application. You're just coming in here, getting context, focusing on the issues at hand, getting an experience and getting the value out of that versus having to, fight with or learn a complex 3D modeling and viewing software. So again, here is basically Prospect by IrisVR. Again, pretty cool. I will tell you that you cannot load really, really large, high detailed models. If you have a really large project, this is actually pretty good with the performance. This has got bolts, welds, and all the cuts, radius pieces with all of the handrail. So this is a pretty robust, detailed model, but I would not do a 10,000 ton project basically in here all at once because it's just the system can't handle it. Even with a supercomputer, the loading times take a while to get everything in here, so you might have to break your model up into different parts if you're going to do really large, complex, highly detail-rich models. All right, well, thanks for taking a look. Subscribe to our channel to follow us for more steel technology solutions.